Middle Schools for joining us today for our program in celebration of Black History Month. My name is Sophia DK, and I am a member of the class of 2023.
And my name is Abraham Morales, and I'm a member of the class of 2022. Welcome to our special guests and our handful of classes that are in the Reaver with us today. We appreciate you for being here, and we know that you will bring the energy.
Did you know that African American History Month was a tradition that started way back in 1926 by historian and scholar Carter G. Woodson? Back in the day, it was called Negro History Week.
This tradition was later turned into a month-long celebration in 1976 and has become a regular way for people all across the country to shine light on the significant contributions of Black people in our shared American history.
Speaking of contributions, our very own LT Steppers are here to kick us off with a performance showcasing the legacy of historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs. Please help me in welcoming to the stage the LT Steppers.
Good afternoon. I hope you will enjoy our performance saluting Black History Month. We would like to show you the taste of stepping history. Stepping is an art form traced back to tribes in Africa. In Kenya, Zaire, Nigeria, and Tanzania, they have dances, and with those dances, they use drums. With the beats, they create messages and meanings. African American soldiers, in a form of cadence, which means rhythm, also used stepping in the United States around World War II. In the 50s and 60s, singing groups such as the Supremes, the Temptations, and the Four Tops used stepping around their singing performances. Next, African American sororities and fraternities use stepping along with rituals and creeds, which promote the ideals such as friendship, loyalty, academic achievement, and intellectual development, service to the community and alma mater, honor and integrity, leadership, and personal responsibility.
School spirit, puff of number. Alpha step, Omega step, Kappa step, Sigma step. Gangsters walk, pimps gon' talk. Ooh, hecky no, that boy is raw. AKA step, Delta step, SG-Roll step, Zeta step. Gangsters walk.
Now, high schools across the nation have step dance teams performing at different venues and at competitions. Now let's bring together all of the historical references in our finale. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, everybody. This was the LTHS Steppers.
Thank you to our LT Steppers. Let's give them another round of applause. Now it is time for our main event. Ms. Maggie Brown is a Chicago native who learned all about her music from her legendary father, Oscar Brown Jr.
Ms. Brown went to study music and theater at Columbia College. She has traveled across the states and abroad performing, and she has shared the gifts of African American history and culture through her one-woman show, Legacy, Our Wealth of Music. And we are so excited that she is here to perform this program for us today, and our own LT Choir, under the direction of Mr. Music, is in the building to lend their voices to this powerful performance. Please give a warm LT welcome to Miss Maggie Brown.
So glad to be with you, the LTHS Choir. It's really been great to work with you and Mr. Music and everybody. So give yourselves a hand. Give it up for the Steppers. That was great. Yes, my name is Maggie Brown, and I'm so glad to be here. Thanks to our Dr. Rowe. She and I have worked together in the past, and she knew of this legacy show. And it really is a show where I knew ever since I was a little girl I wanted to go into show business. They mentioned that my dad was he was a singer and a songwriter, playwright, and I knew I wanted to grow up and be in show business, but I knew I wanted to develop something that he taught me this word, that would be edutainment. It would be a show that would educate or uplift as well as entertain. And so I started studying history of music, of black music. I wanted to understand the evolution. And by studying and gathering information and musical material, I discovered our legacy. I'm gonna kick it off like this. Its roots are in the sounds of the Africans, or should I say the mother, bringing us back again. From the drumming on a Congo, it came with a strong flow and continued to grow. Feet moved to the beat of the tabalo. Now dig this story and follow. For then it landed on American soil. Through the sweat, blood, and the toil, it praised the Lord and it shouted on chain gangs. Pain it felt, but it helped them to maintain. Scott Joplin's rags, Bessie Smith's blues, St. Louis blues, all the news, ringing smooth in all the listeners' ears, fulfilling the needs and planting the seeds of a jazz thing. Yeah, a jazz thing. Can you say it one time? A jazz thing. Say it one more time. A jazz thing. One more time. A jazz thing. Yeah, I love jazz music. Oh, I love y'all feeling it too. I love jazz music, but I found out where it comes from. Like I said, it's our legacy. You know what your legacy is? Your legacy is your gift. It is the gift which you have already inherited from your ancestors, right? And our ancestors are those in our family who have already passed on. Yes, our great-grandparents, their grand and great-grandparents, and so on. So when I just studied the history of African-American music, I found there is great wealth in the musical expressions of my ancestors. Another thing that I discovered is, just as I've been doing this and going around, you know, there's no way that we can't see that we all have something in common, even though we've never met. We all have something that we share, and it's very important. Couple things, really. We have one world, one earth, and one life, right? And it's up to us to give our best in life and to leave the world better than the way we inherited it. I'm gonna say that again. We need to leave the world better than the way we inherited it. That's really what our ancestors were working towards, a better day. And so I wrote a song about it, just to bring the point home. Come on. Got Maxwell on the ones and twos. See, everybody has ancestors, right? We are all just people who come from people we can no longer see. Say, we are people who come from other people. People we can no longer see. We are people who work for a better world for us to see. Each one of us is born into a family. You are the fruit from the branches of your family tree. You are your parents' offspring. The same is true for me. But the family we're born into didn't start so recently. We are people who come from other people. People we can no longer see. We are people who come from people who fought for a world of freedom, liberty. Inheritance is the gift of legacy. You've been bequeathed by those long gone in your family tree. Our kinship is our bloodline from whom we are descending. When we honor them in our mind, ancestors keep ascending. We are people who come from other people. People we can no longer see. We are people who come from people who march for a world of justice and equality. So all this is all about our ancestry, the ones who have passed on inside our family. And when we think of great-grands and great-great-grands, we think of those for whom we feel affinity. Because we are people who come from other people. I say, some of them resemble you and me. We are people who come from people who pray for a world of peace for you and me. They were marching so we could be free. They stood up for equality. They were working for a better world for us to see. much. Now, the LT choir was going to make them stand up the whole time. So you guys, I'm calling you back. Please give it up for them as they take their seats. We're going to proceed. We've got a little more stuff to talk about this history. You see, back in Africa, for my ancestors, music was a part of everyday life. For almost every activity in the daily life of African men, women, boys, and girls, there was an appropriate music. And it offered a means of sharing in a collective experience. That's those drums. This here is called a shekere. Will you say shekere? Shekere. Yeah, that's a traditional African instrument that's made out of a gourd, a fruit that grows from the ground. The top is cut off and the inside seeds hollowed out. And then a skirt is made of string and beads. Gives the sound of both a rattle and a drum. Shekere. So yeah, like whether it was when the men went out to hunt, or when the children played, or when the women ground the grain, there was an appropriate music. It was common to all the many tribes to share in a collective experience each day. And that was a successful celebration, y'all. That's why it's so nice to have you joining voices, because for my ancestors, that's always how it was. There was no separation. The singers, dancers, drummers, and onlookers all contributed to the perfect whole. Woo! But there came a day when slave catchers came. And they tricked and kidnapped the Africans, sent them aboard dungeon ships to a place they called the New World. And that's where we live now, only now it's called the United States of America. And Africans were not allowed to make and play their African drums when they got here. They were fiercely forbidden from practicing in their cultural traditions. No shekares had they. Yet, memories of those syncopated feelings that had been produced in the motherland remained deep within the steppers, deep within the slaves, remained within my ancestors. Memories remain deep within me. That'd be Afro Blue, yep. This actually is a song written by Mongo Santa Maria, the two. My father ended up putting some lyrics to it, and they really fit to speak of the sentiment for this presentation right now. It's called Afro Blue. Right there. Dream of a land my soul is from. I hear a hand stroke on a drum. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night. Afro Blue. Elegant boy, beautiful girl, dancing for joy, delicate world, cocoa hue, rich as the night, Afro Blue. Then my slumbering fantasy assumes reality, until it seems it's not a dream, the two are you and me. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, Afro Blue. All that. Afro Blue, Afro Blue. In the year 1619 in Jamestown, Virginia, a Dutch man sold the first 20 Africans to Captain John Smith. That slave trade period lasted over 250 years, y'all. African men, women, and children being sold on an auction block.
Bid 'em in, get 'em in. That sun is hot and plenty bright. Let's get on to business and get home tonight. Bid 'em in. Auctioning slaves is a real high art. Bring that young gal, Roy, she's good for a start. Bid 'em in, get 'em in. Now here's a real good buy on about 15. Her great-grandmammy was a Dahomey queen. Just look at her face, she sure ain't homely. Like Sheba in the Bible, she's black but comely. Bid 'em in. Gonna start at 3. Can I hear three? Step up, Chance, take a good look, see. Cause I know you'll want her once you see her. She's young and right, make a darn good breeder, bit 'em in. She's good in the field, she can sew and cook. Strip her down, Roy, let the gentleman look. She's full up front and ample behind. Examine her teeth if you got a mind, bid 'em in, get 'em in. Here's a bid of three from a man who's thrifty. $3.25, can I hear $3.50? Your money ain't earning you much in the banks. Turn her around, Roy, let 'em look at her flanks, bid 'em in. $3.50's bidding, I'm looking for four. And $400, she's a bargain sure. Four is the bid, $4.50.
Africans were not allowed to bring any material objects from home. They couldn't pack a suitcase. They were stripped to the bare skin, put in chains, separated from family and community. But though they were not allowed to bring any material objects from home, still, the ancestors transported treasures to this country. And the treasure they brought was not in the form of diamonds and gold like they left in the rich motherland. It wasn't money. The treasure they brought was in the form of rhythm. Y'all, say rhythm. It was the rhythm within their black bodies. And it infiltrated the slave plantations. It sank into the soil of America. So just as they sang together in communal activity at home, so too in America, the Africans developed what were called field hollers and work songs to help ease the drudgery of the cruel labor of slavery. Now some tried to say they must be happy because they's always seen in the field working. I read in the library, one slave was quoted as saying, "We endeavor to keep ourselves up as well as we can. What can we do unless we keep a good heart? If we were to let it weaken, we should die." Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long ways from home, a long ways from home. Eventually, as missionaries were sent from the colonies to convert the Africans to a European style of worship, well, above all else, they enjoyed the musical activities of this new religious service. And soon, those African traditions were being applied to the spiritual prayer. Learning first by the solemn psalmody and hymnody practiced in the European tradition. An African spirit transformed those prayers into what's known as Negro spirituals at the hands of black slaves. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in red. Y'all say, God's gonna trouble the water. Yeah, look like the band that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water. Wait, help me sing it in. Won't you sing it with me? Wait in. Help me sing it, children. Wait in the water. God's gonna trouble that God line again. Do that. God's gonna trouble that line one more time. God's gonna trouble. Just whisper, no clapping. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Sounds so good. Yeah. Woo-hoo. It is a known fact, many of the songs they sing were actually secret signals or instructions to runaway slaves traveling on the Underground Railroad. Y'all know about the Underground Railroad, right? Was it a choo-choo train line? No. And was it necessarily under the ground? No. The Underground Railroad was a series of paths, roads, houses where they'd hide you, churches where they'd feed for those running away from slavery states in the South to get to free states up north. So then how many of you wonderfully clapping, singing people knew that a song like Wade in the Water, child, that really meant travel through the river to lose the dogs that will be tracking your scent. Whoever's gonna get away tonight, we're gonna wade in the water. Follow the drinking gourd. This song signaled that they wait till nighttime and then travel in the direction of the stars forming. You can say it out loud. The Big Dipper. The Big Dipper was the drinking gourd, and it pointed to freedom in northern states in Canada. For the old man is waiting, gonna carry you to freedom this way. If you follow the drinking gourd, when the sun comes back and the first quail calls, say it. Follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is waiting, gonna carry you to freedom. There it is. If you follow the drinking gourd. Yeah. There are great storytellers who passed on the fact that there were those Africans who refused to become slaves, and they would jump off the ships to their death rather than live to serve their captors. They say the song of these Africans is the same song which was handed down in the folk tradition to those struggling for freedom in this country. They say this is the same song which rang out when emancipation did finally come to those southern states. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Before I be a slave, I be buried in my grave. Oh, home to my Lord and be free. This choir sounds so good. I do it twice anyway because you all, when you come around again, everybody's singing it if you don't know the words, hum it. Because you have to understand, freedom is freedom. It doesn't matter when or where. Whether it's a slave in our plantation in the 1619s or our troops over there trying to hold things down and keep things safe for us, overseas or here. So let's just raise our voices for the freedom that many people fought, died, and prayed for us. Here we go. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Oh, freedom over me. Over me. Before I be a slave, I be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Yeah. I would like to take these children on the road with me, please. They sound so good. Give it up, LT Choir. Oh, freedom. Because, child, if it's a slave to a cotton plantation, a slave is thinking that doing some criminal activity is the way for you to come out here and get your pockets fat, that's going to be the slavery of the new millennium. And I pray that you be like all those African ancestors who refused to become slaves. I know in school we kind of get an amen right on, I heard that, Miss Brown, or something like that. Yes, I learned when I studied. Whether my ancestors sang their songs to summon up spiritual relief, or to give secret signals to one another, or to just lift up their spirits and morale, they created new songs in a strange, strange land. And they had an invincible spirit that sang out. It rang out, creating an impact we are still feeling today, y'all. Those cries and musical moans of black slaves helped shape the singing style of the future you and I are living in now. So now, coming out of slavery times, you had down-home country folk characters like Huddy, Leadbelly, and Leadbetter. Say Leadbelly. Everybody in the room and in the classroom, say Leadbelly. Leadbelly was a blues man, and he traveled along dirt roads of the South playing his guitar, singing down-home country folk songs, and what was known as the children's play song. Well, wait, the children's play song? I mean, that was a tradition that was carried on in Africa by my ancestors, but I never knew how far back this stuff comes from. When I used to sing these songs as a child, some of y'all might have heard too, like, skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip, skip, skip to my loo, all skip to my loo, my darling. Cows in the cornfield, 2 by 2, cows in the cornfield, 2 by 2, cows in the cornfield, 2 by 2, all skip to my loo, my darling. I know some of y'all know skip to my loo, that's all right. Another one that Leadbelly used to do called Blue Tail Fly. Never knew the title, because the part I always remember goes, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care, Master's gone away. I was down in Louisiana, stopped around a while in Texarkana. I was feeling just a little bit shy, cause I was bitten by that blue-tail fly. Come on, Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care. Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care. Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care. Master's gone away. Master's gone away. Master's gone away. That made him happy, you know. I know I had some Lead Belly fans up in here. These are the down-home country folk songs and the rural blues sung in the countryside, used holding up times and carried along the dirt roads of the South by wandering musicians. So now, when I first learned Jimmy Crack Corn, Blue-Tail Fly, it was like, Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care, Jimmy Crack Corn, I don't care, Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care, the master's gone away. But when I went to the library and got that Lead Belly record, I found out the original way was the blues way. And it's a little different. It goes, Jimmy Crack Corn, and I don't care, master's gone away. These are what they call blue notes, y'all. And it's no wonder some of our earlier songs were so blue, they were drawn from a well of sorrow and separation. But the important thing I hope you remember, and that I always will, is that it was not a well of despair. Had we given up and given into despair, we would have never made it to this day. No, even in our blues, there's always a note of hope or humor, what they call irony, even in our blues. It's something that helped us kind of carry on and stay sane in the insane situation. Plus, I bet I know some blues you might have heard and like a little. Ooh, 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 ooh. Sister, you've been on my mind. Oh, sister, we're two of a kind. So, sister, I'm keeping my eyes on you. I bet you think I don't know nothing but singing them blues. Oh, sister, have I got news for you? I'm something. I hope you think that you're something too. All right, so now, okay, after that, a lot of times we were very, very dirt poor, coming out of slavery days. Didn't have nothing, no place to stay necessarily, just clothes on our backs. But sometimes they say we might be 10, 15 people living in a one-room shack, but there'd be a very large, important instrument in that one-room shack, and that was the piano. Yeah, you know, the piano. And with that, we invented ragtime. Say ragtime. Oh, ragtime demonstrated the African's great ability for improvisation. And the king of the ragtime players, his name was Scott Joplin. Won't you call that ancestor's name? Scott Joplin. Let's check out Scott Joplin's Maple Leaf Rag. Wait, here comes the word. Watch. Oh, I know. Y'all are used to a lot of heavy bass and drums in your music. But you can believe me when I tell you, back in the late 1800s, baby, that was a jam. A hit. A cut. That was the first song to ever sell 1 million pieces of sheet music. It never happened in history and helped kick off Tin Pan Alley. And when I talk about Tin Pan Alley, we're talking about what started what we enjoy when we do iTunes and all the listening things that they're doing now. Before recording, it was printed music. So, Scott Joplin was quite a master at having been influenced by European classical music, but taking those syncopated rhythms from Africa and blending it with the music. So classical European music lovers like to call it just raggedy classical. That's part of why it has that title. But it wasn't raggedy classical, it was a new musical language introduced to the world by people like Scott Joplin. And it wasn't just in Philadelphia or down in New Orleans. When we got our hands on instruments, those syncopated rhythms came out. And so in New Orleans after the Civil War, a lot of guys got their hands on the instruments that were left in the pawn shops, began to create bands and school those instruments in second line marches that took place in places like at Canal Street in New Orleans. So then you started having not just piano music, but now you have a small ensemble. Canal Street, yeah, just want you to hear a little bit. Yeah, this is some of the early stuff. And the people that were playing this music, y'all, they call themselves syncopated orchestras. But that name didn't stick. It's really what came to be known as, can you guess? Jazz, yeah? But these people who were playing it, like Joseph King Oliver, and you've heard of Louis Armstrong, right? The great saxophone. He's in this. And this is one of the very first black groups that recorded on OK Records. And they described what they were doing was composed in the playing. Okay? So that wasn't like classical music, which had to be scored and played exactly as noted on the paper to be correct. This music that they were creating required that you create from your heart and on the spot. And I can tell you it takes great courage to do that. Our times are kind of condensed, but I've been so glad to be here. I want to wrap things up a little bit, and having made it all the way from its African roots through to the sort of, this isn't exactly bebop jazz, but bebop was what came next, big band jazz, and yeah, jazz thing. And so this one time I was watching, at the same time I was studying for the show, I was watching Mo Better Blues from Spike Lee. And then this thing comes on at the end when the credits are rolling. And it has everything perfect for what I want to say in the Legacy show. And goes something like this. It's roots in the sounds of the Africans, or should I say the mother, bringing us back again from the drumming on the Congo. It came with a strong flow and continued to grow. Feet move to the beat of the tabala. Now dig the story follow, but then it landed on American soil. Through the sweat, blood, and the toil, it praised the Lord and it shouted on chain gangs. Pain it felt, but it helped them to maintain. Scott Joplin's rags, Bessie Smith's blues, St. Louis blues, they were all the news. Ringing smooth in all the listeners' ears, fulfilling the needs, planting the seeds of a jazz thing. Yeah, a jazz thing. Can you say it for me, y'all? Yeah, say it. A jazz thing. Yes. In the 40s came bebop, the first bebop, the real bebop. So let me talk about Diz and Bird, spreading the word, defining how a beat can be so complete. Playing with veracity, thinking with velocity, about ornithology and anthropology, even epistrophe, and this is real history. And now there's young cats blowing, and more people, yes, they will be knowing jazz ain't the past, this music's gonna last. As the facts unfold, remember who foretold 2000 will be a millennium of jazz. Y'all say it, a jazz thing. Keep saying it and saying it, a jazz thing. Keep saying it and saying it, a jazz thing. I love jazz music, a jazz thing. I love jazz music. I love jazz, blues, ragtime, country and western, rock, all of it. Because I know where it comes from. And that makes me feel proud. And it's our history. Yes, a jazz. Next one. Yeah. Okay, good. If we're gonna make this the last song. Yeah. LEHS choir gonna help me. You might end up starting this again because I'm gonna set it up. So yep, I went to work with some youth in a summer school program. They were doing a freedom school thing. And so young people were talking about what was on their minds, and I wanted us to write a song together. I already picked this Justin Timberlake track because I know it makes me want to dance, so they probably be good with it, right? And so then we talked about things and wrote them on the board, about things like we're dealing with in our city, and being safe to go outside. And they were also learning about child hunger and how labor laws had to be instituted or else people would just take advantage, you know? So we wrote all these things on the board, and they inspired these words. And you inspire me to get this message to everyone I can. If I just begin to visualize the truth I wanna see with these two eyes, the truth would triumph over all the lies, and everyone would create paradise. Now I know it has to start with me, to conjure up the world I want to be, and I can't waste one opportunity to demonstrate the love I wanna see. Because I can see a different day, me and my friends going out to play, having fun on a sunny day. So I just hope and I pray that things stay this way. There is no violence, guns are silent, that's what this vibe is. Cause there won't be no violence in my world. My world, my world. Said there won't be no violence in my world. My world, my world. Cause peace is what's required in my world. Y'all singing if you know it too. World. Oh, you don't know what a joy it is to have LP choir help you. It's time. Now in a world of infinite life, we cannot justify no reason why any children should have to cry. We must save their lives so they won't die. To let a child go hungry is a sin. If we don't help each other, we won't win. The earth is calling for us to begin living, loving like family again. Because I can see a different world, plenty for each boy and girl, with a warm, safe place to stay. So I just hope and I pray that things stay this way. There is no hunger, lives grow longer, we all get stronger. Cause there won't be no hunger in my world, my world, my world. Said there won't be no hunger in my world, my world, my world. Yeah, cause peace is what's required in my world, world, world. In my world, in your world. Check this out. I got a fantasy, it includes you and me. I fantasize we get together, make the world free. Free from things that separate, free to love, free of hate, free from the need to be filled with hostility. My fantasy has us keeping happy company. Keeping happy company. Focusing on what we like, what we have in common. Untangling the strings like we're hooking up ramen. Then we're gonna serve it up to one another. Everybody doing what's best for each other. No, I sound crazy, like we could all love our brothers and sisters. I said I had a fantasy. You could say I'm scheming. They say all things start with a thought, so I'ma keep on dreaming. Drink with me. World, peace in my world. No violence in my world. No child goes hungry in my world, my world. Again, it's about leaving this world better than the way we inherited it. And we can do that. Our ancestors have shown the way. So this is your school, your wonderful atmosphere, and everybody's here to nurture and help you grow. So you don't want to be the knucklehead that's making it hard in the classroom. You just want to soak it all up. We learn about each other, learn to respect each other's culture, and it fosters the compassion that will bring about the love this world needs. Thank you so much. Thank you, Troy Maxwell. Thank you, LT Choir, Steppers. Really appreciate you. God bless. Great choir.
All right, everybody, let's give it up one more time for the Steppers, the choir, and Miss Maggie Brown. All right, young people, thank you so much for coming today. We hope that you all listen to Maggie's message, because we all need to make sure that we're focusing on what we have in common and loving and lifting each other up. So we're so proud of you. We're so very proud of you. And know that all the adults in this building are here to help you and make this place a better world. So thank you. We need you all. Thank you, guys.
I do that?
It's working.
Last time we did that, it's
Yeah, I get really quiet. So
We will be starting in 2 minutes.
not too bad.
That's so cool. They can speak fluent Italian.
What?
They can speak fluently Italian.
Oh yeah, I was talking to her earlier. It's not us, is it? Do you want a death clap at the end?
What?
Do you want a death clap at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of it.
This one and then for this one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
I don't even know.
Well, last time they turned off all the lights.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is sufficient.
maybe
I just realized like we're like in the light, so we
know.
probably scared.
Welcome and thank you to all of our LT classes and middle schools for joining us today for our program in celebration of Black History Month. My name is Sophia DK and I am a member of the class of 2023.
And my name is Abraham Morales, and I'm a member of the class of 2022. Welcome to our special guests and our handful of classes that are in the Reaver with us today. We appreciate you for being here, and we know that you will bring the energy.
Did you know that African American History Month was a tradition that was started way back in 1926 by historian and scholar Carter G. Woodson? Back in the day, it was called Negro History Week.
This tradition was later turned into a month-long celebration in 1976 and has become a regular way for people all across the country to shine the light on the significant contributions of Black people in our shared American history.
Speaking of contributions, our very own LT Steppers are here to kick us off with a performance showcasing the legacy of historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs. Please help me in welcoming to the stage the LT Steppers.
Good afternoon. I hope you will enjoy our performance saluting Black History Month. We would like to show you a taste of the history of stepping. Stepping is an art form traced to tribes in Africa, in Kenya, Zaire, Nigeria, and Tanzania. They have dances, and with those dances, they use drums. With the beats, they create messages and meanings. African American soldiers, in a form of cadence, which means rhythm, also used stepping in the United States around World War I or II. In the 50s and the 60s, singing groups such as the Supremes, the Temptations, and the Four Tops used stepping during their singing performances.
I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I've got the month of May. I guess you say what can make me feel this way, my girl. Talking about my girl, I've got so much.
Next, African American sororities and fraternities use stepping along with rituals and creeds, which promote the ideals such as friendship, loyalty, academic achievement, and intellectual development, service to the community and the alma mater, honor and integrity, leadership, and personal responsibility.
School spirit up for number. Alpha step, Omega step, Kappa step, Sigma step, gangsters walk, pimps gon' talk. Ooh, hecky no, that boy is raw. AKA step, Delta step, SGO step, Zeta step, gangsters walk.
Now, high schools across the nation have step dance teams, performing at different venues and at competitions.
Let me be your woman, 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 woman. I can be your woman, 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 woman. Let me be your woman, 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 woman. I can be your woman, 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 woman. What you need.
Now, let's bring together all of the historical references in our finale. Thank you.
Thank you, LT Steppers. Let's give them another round of applause. Now it's time for our main event. Ms. Maggie Brown is a Chicago native who learned all about music through her legendary father, Oscar Brown Jr.
Miss Brown went to study music and theater at Columbia College. She has traveled across the states and abroad performing, and she has shared the gifts of African American history and culture through her one-woman show, Legacy, Our Wealth of Music. And we are so excited that she is here to perform this program for us today, and our own LT Choir, under the direction of Mr. Music, is in the building to lend their voices to this powerful performance.
Please give a warm LT welcome to Miss Maggie Brown.
Hey there. Oh, I should turn it on. Good morning. Hi. Yeah, I love the steppers. Give it up one more time. I'm not sure if this is doing what it's supposed to. Here we go. Okay. Push this? Yes. But I did a lot of times. Keep holding it. Is it supposed to go off or is it supposed to blink? It should stop flashing. It worked for a moment. Oh, here she comes, Miss Morris. Yeah, that was, I guess, my mic. Okay. As far as this part? Yeah, I guess I'm good. You know, technical things. So my voice is kind of going in and out with the old mic. But I can project and I know you'll hear me. Plus I have the help of the lovely, wonderful, talented LTHS Choir. They're going to help me kick things off, and then they're going to help throughout. I'm really glad to be here. February is one of my favorite months, even though it's such a short, freezing cold month, but it has a lot of stuff in it, like my birthday was yesterday. And then it's Valentine's Day. And it's African American History Month, and it means all month long we can look at, just take a better look at what's happened in our development and our contributions. And it's a wonderful thing because I studied the history of black music, and in so doing, I discovered our legacy. You know what your legacy is? Your legacy is your gift. The gift that you've already inherited from your ancestors. Okay, so I decided to conduct a study and to put together a show that would be edutainment. My dad was the first person I heard use that term, that it's educational, uplifting entertainment. And I wanted it to be about one of my favorite subjects, music, and so I studied and gathered information and musical material. And in so doing, like I said, I discovered our legacy. Let me kick it off like this. Its roots are in the sounds of the Africans, or should I say the mother, bringing us back again. From the drumming on a Congo, it came with a strong flow and continued to grow. Feet moved to the beat of the tabalo. Now dig the story and follow. But then it landed on American soil. Through the sweat, blood, the toil, it praised the Lord and it shouted games. Pain it felt, but it helped them to maintain. Scott Johnson's rags, Bessie Smith's blues, St. Louis blues. Okay, so wait, I have no mic. Hold on, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this isn't working because on cordless mics sometimes you just get, I don't know, frequency interference. Is it possible to just set up a standing mic or something? I'm sorry, baby. Laura, you gotta run all around and do all that. No, I don't know if I want to take it, but yeah, it's just not doing the right thing. It's definitely on. And it's popping in and out. I know that's irritating you guys. So, I'm gonna project until then. Yeah, for now, we'll just do like this. Okay, you guys. All right, where was I? Oh, should I say the mother, bringing us back again. From the drumming on a Congo, it came with a strong flow and continued to grow. Feet moved to the beat of the tabalo. Now dig the story and follow. For then it landed on American soil. Through the sweat, blood, and toil, it praised the Lord and shouted on chain gangs. Pain it felt, but it helped them to maintain Scott Joplin's rags, Bessie Smith's blues, St. Louis blues. They were all the news, ringing smooth in all the listeners' ears, fulfilling the needs and planting the seeds of a jazz thing. Yeah, a jazz thing. Will you say it one time? A jazz thing. Say it one more time. A jazz thing. Woo-wee, yes. I love jazz music. I love it because I found out where it comes from. And that information has made me feel proud. The information I learned has made me feel really good, you guys, because what I discovered or said is our legacy. Oh yes, how many different little things to take my mind off. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry, with this blinking, if it's okay, I'm not gonna put that on. All right. I love jazz music because I found out where it comes from. And the information made me feel so proud, and it made me appreciate what legacy is a lot more. So now, one thing that we all have in common is that there's just one world, one earth, and we're all given one life. So now that's something that we all share and that we're all responsible for you know, doing our best to be healthy and productive in our lives, and also to leave the world better than the way we inherited it, right? Yep, and because see, we have ancestors. That's something else we all have in common. The people that came before us, right? So I wrote a little song about it, and LT Choir is gonna help me. Oh yeah, that's right. Don't worry about the mic, because you guys can hear me, right? Yeah, so we're just, we'll see what happens with the music on, but so sorry. Okay, so this is a song about ancestry, because we all have ancestors. Here comes the track. Here comes the track. Everybody wait, cause here comes the track. Oh, I love the steppers too, because my grandfather, he was an Alpha Phi Alpha, and his brother wrote the credo called House of Alpha. I found out that was a pretty big deal. The stepping, the Greek stepping that they were doing. So now, we are people who come from other people. People we can no longer see. Yeah. We are people who come from people who work for a better world for us to see, yes. Each one of us is born into a family. You are the fruit from the branches of your family tree. You are your parents' offspring, and the same is true for me. But the family we're born into didn't start so recently. We are people who come from other people. People we can no longer see. We are people who come from people who fought for freedom and liberty. Inheritance is the gift of legacy. You've been bequeathed by those long gone in your family tree. Our kinship is our bloodline, from whom we are descending. When we honor them in our minds, ancestors keep ascending. We are people who come from other people. People we can no longer see. We are people who come from people who march for justice and equality. So all of this is all about our ancestors, the ones who have passed on inside our family. And when we think of great-grands and great-great-grands, we think of those for whom we feel affinity. We are people who come from other people. Someone gets the loyalty. We are people who come from people who prayed for a world of peace for us to see. They were marching so we could be free. They stood for justice and equality. They were marching for human ancestry. Let's give it up for our ancestors. And give it up for the LT Choir, right? Okay. We'll try this. Sorry, watch my cord, guys. Okay, please watch me cord. Yep, oh, no, I'm so sorry. Okay, you got it now? Okay, because I couldn't get it to come on. Okay, this gives me, a lot of amplification. Oh my goodness. Usually have my hands free. Let's see how I can do this. Oh yeah, we got like a screen. Thanks, you guys. Wonderful job. Nothing like it. Nothing like having you join me for this show. They're going to come back. And even from where we're sitting, everyone, this is an interactive performance, by the way. Who feels it knows it. In other words, I don't ever want you to hold back from being a part of it if you want to, right? All right, so now where are we? Our ancestors. I found out that for my ancestors in Africa, music was a part of everyday life. For almost every activity in the daily life of African men, women, boys, and girls, there was an appropriate music. And music offered a means of sharing in a collective experience. It was common to all the many villages and tribes in Africa to participate in the singing, dancing, and dramatic elements performed to the talking drum. In fact, that was a successful celebration, one in which all the members of the community would take part. So in the spirit of those ancestors, that's why I say I want you to clap, sing, tap your feet along. This is called a shekere. Will you say shekere? Shekere. Yep, a shekere is made out of a gourd, a fruit that's cousin to pumpkin and squash, that you clean out, cut it off, clean out the inside seeds, and then a skirt is made of string and beads. So it gives the sound of both the rattle and the drum. The shekere. Like I said, for my ancestors, music was a part of everyday life. There was an appropriate music when the children played, when the men went out to hunt, when the women ground the grain, or they came back with the kill. It was just common. And it was common that everyone would participate, like not just the singers, the dancers, the drummers, and the onlookers. Everybody contributed to the perfect whole. But there came a day when slave catchers came and tricked and kidnapped the Africans, sent them aboard these dungeon ships to the place they called the New World, which is, of course, where we are in these United States. And those Africans were not allowed to make and play their African drums when they got here. They were fiercely forbidden from practicing in their cultural traditions. No shekeres had they. Yet, memories of those syncopated feelings that had been produced in the motherland remained deep within the slaves. Memories remained deep within my ancestors, and memories remain deep within me. Maybe up a little. I got y'all running back there today, don't I? Dream of a land my soul is from. I hear a head stroke on a drum. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, Afro blue. Elegant boy, beautiful girl, dancing for joy, delicate world. Rich as the night, Afro blue. Then my slumbering fantasy assumes reality, until it seems it's not a dream. The two are you and me. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, Afro blue. In the year 1619, in Jamestown, Virginia, a Dutchman sold the first 20 Africans to Captain John Smith. Lasted over 250 years. African men, women, and children being sold on an auction block.
Auctioning slaves is a real high art. Bring that young gal, Roy, she's good for a start. Bid 'em in, get 'em in. Now here's a real good buy on about 15. Her great-grandmammy was a Dahomey queen. Just look at her face, she sure ain't homely. Like Sheba in the Bible, she's black but comely. Bid 'em in. Gonna start at 3. Can I hear 3? Step up, gents, take a good look, see. Cause I know you'll want her once you've seen her. She's young and right, make a darn good breeder. Bid 'em in. She's good in the field, she can sew and cook. Strip her down, Roy, let the gentleman look. She's full up front and ample behind. Examine her teeth if you got a mind. Bid 'em in, get 'em in. Here's a bit of three from a man.
Africans were not allowed to bring any material objects from home. They couldn't pack a suitcase. They were stripped to the bare skin and put in chains, separated from family and community. But though they were not allowed to bring material objects from home, still the ancestors transported treasures to this country. And the treasure was not in the form of diamonds and gold like they left in the rich motherland. It wasn't money. The treasure that they brought, it was in the form of rhythm. Y'all, say rhythm. Yes, it was the rhythm within their black bodies. And that rhythm infiltrated the slave plantations. It sank into the soil of America. With their rhythmic incantations and chants, these field hollers and work songs were something they would sing to help ease the drudgery of the cruel labor of slavery. Not allowed to speak in their native language, they were forced to learn the language of their captors. And while being driven and herded like cattle, my ancestors changed those words into songs to help them work. Here's something you might have heard on a southern cotton plantation back during slavery times. Pull and haul, pull and haul, pull and haul, pull and haul. King in my crocus sack, pulling and hauling. I got a plantation on my back, pulling and hauling. Master say you work long as you stay black, pulling and hauling, pulling and hauling from till Kent. The lead man keeps calling a new crop to plant. Pulling, hauling. That's call and response. Call and response singing. That is an African tradition. That's an African tradition that made it over the long Middle Passage to the New World. And it's by singing those songs in their great African tradition, by holding on to a little bit of their culture that way, it helped them to survive the physical and spiritual brutality of slavery. Folks tried to say that, well, them darkies must be happy. They's always seen out in the field working with a song. Quite the contrary. I read in the library where one slave was quoted as saying, "We endeavor to keep ourselves up as well as we can. What can we do unless we keep a good heart? If we were to let it weaken, we should die." Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long ways from home, a long ways from home. Eventually, missionaries were sent to colonies to convert the Africans to a European style of worship. Well, above all else, they enjoyed the musical activities of the new religious service. And soon, those African traditions were being applied to the spiritual prayer. Oh, they had to learn it first by solemn psalmody and hymnody practiced in the European tradition. But eventually, an African spirit transformed those prayers into what's known as Negro spirituals at the hands of black slaves. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. God God's gonna trouble the water. See that band all dressed in red. Y'all say, God's gonna trouble the water. That's call and response. Yeah. Looks like the band that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water. Who knows Wade? Sing it with me. Waiting. Won't you sing it with me? Waiting. Help me sing it, children. Waiting the water. God's gonna trouble that line one more time, God. God's gonna trouble that line one more time. God's gonna trouble. Just whisper, no clapping. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Give yourselves a You sound so good. Yes, it's a known fact. Many of those songs they sang were actually secret signals or instructions to runaway slaves traveling on the Underground Railroad. Okay, so how many of y'all knew that a song like Wade in the Water? Child, that really meant travel through the river to lose the dogs that will be tracking your scent. Everybody running away tonight, we're going to wade in the water. Follow the drinking gourd. This song signaled that they wait till nighttime and then travel in the direction of the stars, forming the Big Dipper or drinking gourd. The Big Dipper was the drinking gourd, and it pointed to freedom in northern states of Canada. How do you like that one? For the old man is waiting, gonna carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. When the sun comes back and the first quail calls, follow the drinking gourd this way. For the old man is waiting, gonna carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. Yes, there are some great storytellers who passed on the fact that, well, there were those Africans who refused to become slaves, and they would jump off the ships to their death rather than live to serve their captors. They say, don't touch it. The song of these many, many millions of Africans is the same song that was handed down in the folk tradition to those struggling for freedom in this country. They say, this is the same song which rang out when emancipation did finally come to those southern states. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. I always like to do this twice, but you know, at your choir, I want to do it about 4 times. But because freedom, you guys, freedom is freedom. It doesn't matter when it is or where it is. Whether it's someone getting free from a plantation in the South or the freedom that our troops are steady fighting for and trying to uphold overseas or here. Freedom is something that our ancestors fought, bled, cried, and prayed for us to enjoy. So for those ancestors and for the contribution we'll make ourselves in this world, let's raise our voices on "Oh Freedom" with your wonderful choir. No telling what key Maggie's gonna put it in. Oh, freedom, yes. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Oh, freedom over me, over me. Before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. whether it's to a slave plantation and cotton plantation in 1619, or thinking that slinging rocks, selling drugs, being in the gang, being involved in any criminal activity that tears your family or your community down, that's the way to get your pockets fat, that's the slavery of the new millennium. And I pray you be like those ancestors who refused to become slaves. Can I get an I heard that right on, Miss Brown, or something like that? I know you better, yeah. Yeah. See, I learned when I studied the history that whether my ancestors sang their songs to summon up spiritual relief, or to give secret signals to one another, or just lift up their spirits and morale, those Africans created new songs in a strange land. And they had an invincible spirit that sang out, it rang out, creating an impact we are still feeling today, y'all. Those cries and musical moans of black slaves shaped the singing style of the future in this country, the future you and I are living in now. Now, with emancipation, they were free to head up the road to God knows what. No shelter, no food, just the clothes on their backs. But while in slavery times, they had taught themselves to play whatever instruments they could get their hands on. So coming out of slavery days, you had down-home country folk characters like Huddy, Leadbelly, Leadbetter. Everybody say Leadbelly. Everybody in the room and in the classroom, say Leadbelly. Leadbelly was a blues man, and he traveled along the dirt roads of the South playing his guitar and singing these down-home country folk songs and what was known as the children's play song. Well, the children's play song, that was a tradition carried on in Africa by my ancestors way long ago. I never knew how far back in my history this stuff comes from when I sang it as a child. Stuff you might have heard too, like skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip, skip, skip to my loo, oh, skip to my loo, my darling. Cows in the cornfield, 2 by 2, cows in the cornfield, 2 by 2, cows in the cornfield, 2 by 2, oh, skip to my loo, my, come on, y'all. Skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip, skip, skip to my loo, skip to my loo, my. Did y'all know you had this many Leadbelly fans in this school? You didn't know, did you? Another one that Leadbelly used to do, it's called Blue Tail Fly. But I never knew the title, because I always remembered the part that says, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Master's gone away. I was down in Louisiana, stopped around a while in Texarkana. I was feeling just a little bit shy, because I was bitten by that blue tail fly. Come on, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Master's gone away. Master's gone away. Master's gone. That made him happy when Master went into town, right? Act up a little bit. Yes, these are the down-home country folk songs, the rural blues sung in the southern countryside and carried along dirt roads by wandering singers and musicians. So when I first learned that song, it was like many of you, I heard, it was like, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care, my master's gone away. But when I went to the library and got a Leadbelly record, I found out the original way was a blues way, and it's a little different. It said, Jimmy crack corn and I don't care, master's gone away. These are what they call blue notes. And it's no wonder that our earliest songs were so blue. They were drawn from a well of sorrow and separation. But the important thing I hope you'll remember, and that I always will, is that it was not a well of despair. Had we given up and given in to despair, we would have never made it to this day. No, even in our blues, there's almost always some note of hope or some humor or some what they call irony, even in our blues. Sister, you've been on my mind. Oh, sister, we're two of a kind. So, sister, I'm keeping my eyes on you. I bet you think I don't know nothing but singing these blues. Oh, sister, have I got news for you? I'm something. I hope you think that you're something too. 'Cause you are. Yeah, how many of y'all saw The Color Purple movie? And remember when Miss Suge sang that to Miss Seeley at the juke joint? Okay, cool. Then you have in your mind, a picture in your mind of where we are on the timeline. When black folks weren't allowed in the normal and legitimate places of theater and entertainment, therefore we had to make our own places to play. And sometimes they look like Harpo's juke joint out back in the forest, like they did in that movie. Another remarkable thing the history books talk about is how even though black folks were dirt poor, might be 10, 15 people living in a one-room shack with a dirt floor, but there'd often be one very large, very important instrument in that one-room shack. That's the piano. You know, the piano. And with that, we invented ragtime. Say ragtime for me. Oh, ragtime music demonstrated the Africans' great propensity for improvisation. And the king of the ragtime players, why, his name was Scott Joplin. Please call that ancestor's name, Scott Joplin. Let's check out Scott Joplin's song called Maple Leaf Rag. Started. I know, y'all are used to a lot of heavy bass and drums in your music, but listen, back in the 1800s, that was a cut. That was it. Oh yes, it was a jam. That was the first song to ever sell 1 million pieces of sheet music at a time when there was only printed music, no recordings, nothing like that. But it kicked off what's called Tin Pan Alley, and it was the first form of music publishing. And it has led all the way to where we are downloading iTunes and everything, Spotifying, and doing everything we're doing today. Scott Joplin wrote that first million seller, but of course he never got the million pennies from the sale of his million pieces of sheet music. And many of his fondest dreams were never to materialize because he was victim of a racist society that controlled the money made off of his talent and labor. You see, Scott Joplin had written these 2 ragtime operas, which he could never get produced because, well, what do y'all know about real theater? And it drove him crazy. Were there any who cared to cry the day the ragtime piano man died? Were there any who sobbed and sighed as they carted him on his final ride? Was there much of a care they gave about the talented son of a slave? When the brother passed on, another colored man gone without a marker to put on his grave. See, Scott Joplin's music won an Academy Award 56 years after he was laid in an unmarked grave for his music being used in the soundtrack of The Sting. This was the early days of these big soundtracks, and yes, Scott Joplin's music, back then it took the nation by storm, and as time went on and black folks started to get up out of the South. Oh, you know what I forgot every time? But I'm just gonna tell them this because we don't have that track. But as they started to get out of the South and get away from the terrorism, the lynching, and the Jim Crow things and sharecropper lifestyle, the music started to move with them. We had to migrate out of the South. And so let's see. Yeah, I didn't hook us up, Max, so we could do that track, but I'm just gonna sing it because, yeah, I have this song about migration, the fact that I could tell you what makes it a great migration is that folks back then, they traveled. So my grandfather, let me go back. My grandfather, he came up in the Great Migration, and his brother, and they ended up coming from Mississippi and settling in Chicago. All right? So what makes it such a great migration is that folk back then would travel great distances to secure a future of positive instances. And though the journey was filled with danger, keeping faith in what's unseen to my people is no stranger. Did I mention all the miles that they covered in search of their hopes and dreams to discover, seeking a life free of grueling labor and an opportunity to taste the city flavor? The way that it moved people out from the sharecropper life of the South. The fact that without Jim Crow, hope and progress had a chance to grow. So, I'll tell you what makes, y'all say, what makes it a great migration? I'll tell you what makes it, ask me, what makes it a great migration? Is that people made a new start in their life so that their children wouldn't have the same strife. It gave a chance for a better education to move black people forward for the new generation. The music moved up as people moved out into new frontiers and venues, no doubt, and jazz got a college education, and jazz spread beyond the nation. Jazz spread through cities and across the seas. Without segregation, racism could freeze. Music led to more communication, helping improve human relations. The fact that it came with a price, the price of many an American's life. The fact that it helped them to see jazz improvisation made the people feel free. Ooh-wee. I'll tell you what makes it, y'all say. What makes it a great migration? I'll tell you what makes it, ask me. What makes it a great migration? Thanks, yes. We migrated here seeking a better way of life, job opportunities. My grandfather had become a lawyer and started helping black people start businesses and even own condominiums very early on when there was a lot of housing segregation and restrictions. Those things had to be fought and won. So I feel really close to history. I told you about the Alphas, and that's one of the earliest chapters ever, because Granddad was born at the end of the 1800s. So anyway, yes, this migration, it brought the music, and it gave more opportunities. Once folks landed in Chicago, by then the instruments were starting to be amplified and electrified. But down in New Orleans, for example, after the Civil War, a lot of armies disbanded and left instruments in the pawn shops. And so the guys would get their hands on the instruments and school them in second line marches and do these things they called 10 minutes, okay, yeah. And so here's a sound from an area called Canal Street, because they would make actually music battles, you guys. Music battles would take place on the street corners of New Orleans. So no, not drive-bys, music battles. And the band that won, they would get the best jobs in town, and the leader of that band would be crowned king. And so we're listening now to King Oliver's Creole Band. Now, how many of you have heard of Louis Armstrong, the great Satchmo? Good, good. He's actually playing trumpet or the cornet on this, and it's one of the very first recordings of an African-American group. It was on the OK label. And so back then, like I said, there was the influence of European classical music, sure, but it was, there was also the influence of syncopated rhythms from Africa, and they made this new syncopated feeling. And some people just consider what black folks were doing was making raggedy classical, but the ragtime that was created and this music that followed as we started making ensembles, it's actually what came to be known as, it came to be known as jazz. But people like King Oliver and Louis Armstrong, they describe what they were doing was being composed in the playing. Okay, so that's different than when the music's scored and has to be played exactly as written on the paper to be correct. This music that came to be known as jazz meant that you could create from your heart and improvise. That's a main part of what it really is. It takes a lot of courage to do that. Oh man, my dad said that when he was little, he thought he would never get enough of this kind of music. It's called boogie woogie. Let's do it. So fun. And if you've seen any of the old movies and how they used to dance back then, woo-wee! Couldn't have your pants sagging to do them dances. Okay, anyway, yes, this is Count Basie's song called Doggin' Around, because by this time in our history, the bands are big bands. And we were still suffering from the segregation of, you know, the band player, the musicians could come in the back door but couldn't sit and enjoy the very place that they were popularizing, but it didn't stop them from creating a new music that has enriched the world, really. That's jazz. This is big band jazz. Yeah, go on to the jazz thing. So now, if you remember anything I talked about today, about the study of African American history and music, I hope it's what I said. I learned that originally, the music that my ancestors created, it was a feeling thing. You understand? It came from their heart, from their guts. Back during slavery times, their voice crying out in the hot sun was all they had. And it helped them to survive. It helped them to stay sane in a very insane situation, y'all. But that music came from a spirit-filled place. It came from a place that understood we're all one people, human people, even if we get separated from our families. So now, luckily, LT Choir is back to help us close out this legacy show. Gotta stay on the 2 and the 4 though. Its roots are in the sounds of the Africans, or should I say the mother, bringing us back again. From the drumming on a Congo, it came with a strong flow, and it continued to grow. Feet move to the beat of the tabalo. Now dig the story and follow. But then it landed on American soil. Through the sweat, blood, and the toil, it praised the Lord. It shouted on chain gangs. Pain it felt, but it helped them to maintain. Scott Joplin's rags and Bessie Smith's blues. St. Louis blues, they were all the news. Ringing smooth in all the listeners' ears. Fulfilling the needs, planting the seeds of a jazz thing. Yeah, a jazz thing. Say it, y'all. A jazz thing. Keep saying it. Yeah, a jazz thing. Yes, a jazz thing. I love jazz music. A jazz thing. I love jazz music. I love jazz and blues and ragtime and rock and roll, country and western, all of it, even some hip hop, because I know where it comes from. That makes me feel proud. Study our history, all of our history, so you can be proud like me. A jazz thing. Yeah, right. See, that's why I chose this track. I was going to work with some young people one summer to do make a song. I wanted to create a song with them, and I said, okay, this track, this will get everybody like, oh yeah, right? So we had the track, and they were learning. They were in a freedom school program, and they were learning not only about, you know, the struggles of peoples in the past in our United States, but also the struggles with children. Like they had to make child labor laws and do things to abolish hunger. So they were just learning about all these things one summer, and I came and I said, well, let's write a song. What's on you all's mind? And one thing that was important a few summers ago, like this summer, violence. Being safe to go outside and just play and be a child and not be worried about violence. So this is what the young people inspired me to write, to go with Mr. Justin's track. And if you know it, you're gonna know it. You know the tune. Feel free to sing along. If I just begin to visualize the truth I wanna see with these two eyes, the truth would triumph over all the lies, and everyone would create paradise. Now I know it has to start with me, to conjure up the world I want to be. And I can't waste one opportunity to demonstrate the love I wanna see. Because I can see a different day, me and my friends going out to play, having fun on a sunny day. So I just hope and I pray that things stay this way. There is no violence, tons of silence. That's what this vibe is. Cause there won't be no violence in my world. My world. My world. Cause there won't be no violence in my world. My world. My world. I say, cause peace is what's required in my world. Sing it, y'all. Now in a world of infinite supply, can I justify no reason why any children should have to cry? We must save their lives so they won't die. To let a child go hungry is a sin. If we don't help each other, we won't win. The earth is calling for us to begin living and loving like family again. Because I can see a different world, plenty for each boy and girl, with a warm, safe place to stay. So I just hope and I pray that things stay this way. There is no hunger, lives grow longer, we all get stronger. Cause there won't be no hunger in my world. My world. Thanks for coming. My world. Sorry we ran a little over. Peace is what's required in my world. My world. My world. Said there won't be no violence in my world. fantasize, we get together, make this world free, free from things that separate, free to love, free of hate, free from the need to be filled with hostility. My fantasy has us keeping happy company. Hey, keeping happy, focusing on what we like, on what we have in common. Untangling the strings like we're hooking up some ramen, then we're gonna serve it up to one another. Everybody doing what's best for each other. And no, I'm not crazy. Yes, we can all love each other. I said I had a fantasy. You could say I'm scheming, cause they say all things start with a thought. So I'ma keep on dreaming. Dream with me. Dream with me. My world, my world, my world, my world. There won't be no violence in my world, in my world. There won't be no violence in my world. Peace is what's required in my world. So much love, Mr. Music and all the staff, Dr. Rowe, everyone, and to this choir for really enhancing in the steppers. The whole thing was just very, very full, and I'm so glad to be with you. God bless, you did a great job. Thank you so much. Leave the world better than the way we inherited it.